It is finally time for the tandem read. So, for those of you who are familiar with the Throne of Glass series, there's a whole jumble and mess of a way that you can read the series. The romantic order, there's SJM's favorite order, there's the chronological order. I have been reading chronologically, so I read Assassin's Blade first, and now that I am at Empire of Storms, there is an interesting choice you can make as a reader, whether or not to do the tandem read. The reason this is possible is that both of these books take place at the same time. It just follows two different sets of characters in the story. So I think SJM has weighed in and she says, like, it doesn't really make a difference. Like, she doesn't condone or, you know, also shoo away people from doing the tandem read. But the reason I want to do the tandem read, well, I guess there's a couple of reasons why I want to do the tandem read. The first is I'm just excited to be a part of like a cool fandom thing while it's happening. Yes, I know Throne of Glass was finished like years ago, but the fandom is still very much alive, and I'm very excited just to participate in a cool fandom trend. The second reason is I think it's very masterful for SJM to write in this way. The other reason, for those of you who are familiar with the character of Kale, depending on where you are in the series, I personally don't like Kale, but I'm pretty sure one of these books is following him in that set of group, and I don't think we get to see our main girl, and I can't imagine reading a whole book, a whole like 658 page book and not see our main girl. I just can't. I can't. So those are a couple reasons why I am going to do the tandem read. But again, you don't have to. It's a personal choice. I'm just really excited. How I'm going to tackle this. If you just Google TOG tandem read, you're going to get all of these lists, and it'll give you a chapter by chapter breakdown. I can also link the one that I'm going to use below. I'm going to go through that list, and I'm going to tab everywhere that I should read, where I should stop, how many chapters. So let's go do that. This is the end result. I think I just spent like 20 minutes or so tabbing these through. I found that really relaxing. As much as I would love to jump into reading them, it's been a really long day.
What are you doing? So last night there was this big, terrible storm. NATO sirens were going off. We could go in the basement. Power lines were knocked over. So our power is out right now. Has been all day. It's like 86 degrees. We don't have internet. We don't have AC. We can't run fans. Just have windows open. I guess that makes today like a really good reading day. This book, I am now to chapter 5, and I'm on my first switch to this one, and I'm only gonna read one chapter before I have to switch back. I'm gonna try and make this spoiler free, but I don't know. I will say it makes sense to be switching at this point because there's a lot of POV switches in this series, and chapter 6 you're switching to a different character's POV, so why not switch to the beginning of a new book. I will say, after reading just one chapter of this, I'm glad that I'm doing the tandem read because of the tone set in the book by this one and this character. I'm glad I don't have to stick with that for a whole 660 pages. I've already messed up the tandem read. I've been carrying these around in my bags when we go places in the car and stuff, and some of my little things fell out of Empire of Storms, so I'm behind a couple chapters on this one, so now I'm gonna read and catch up. I think I'm okay though. Empire of Storms is still like in the lead, and this one's like catching up to what's happening in Empire of Storm, so it's not like I've spoiled anything. Plus, like, Empire of Storm is first in this series and you can read it by itself, so I'm okay. As long as I don't get too far ahead in Tower of Dawn, I don't think I'm spoiling anything for myself, and I think I haven't messed up too bad. We can repair it. I'm finally back on track. That's all. You my reading buddy? Yeah. So, is the tandem read worth it? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely yes, without a doubt. Reading these two books together makes for such a beautiful storytelling experience in the end. And the best way I can describe the tandem read experience is that it's very cinematic. And by that, I mean, if TOG were adapted for the screen, most likely a TV series would do it justice, and the storytelling would shift and jump between these two books. One, so we can stay in touch with the whole cast of characters. If you're a fantasy fan, if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, it would very much feel similar to that. It would feel very much like the season where we as viewers are hopping between Westeros and Essos, and I think in general, Game of Thrones would serve as a good blueprint for TOG because it has such a wide cast of characters and story arcs and plot lines that we are following. To delve into that further, for instance, you'd watch a scene that was very high stakes. You're sitting on the edge of your seat. Something hugely climactic happens, and suddenly you're left on this cliffhanger to go catch up on another character storyline. And that character storyline is in a much more relaxed, slow, sometimes it can even feel lethargic compared to that boom boom pow action. It's a different mood, and that's very intentional. It gets you excited, and then it gives you space to breathe and process what just happened, but also to keep you wanting more. With the Throne of Glass series, Empire of Storms is very boom boom bam, action packed. Something is always happening, like the entire book. Tower of Dawn, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. This is slow. This is somewhat somber. A lot of people have called it boring, and that's the wrong word. That's not what this is. This is more of a healing journey. And sure, that can feel very boring to come down to such a different mood, a lower mood, or vibration, if you will, for 600 some pages compared to Empire of Storm. So I know there are a lot of people out there on the internet saying Tower of Dawn is boring. It's not. It's really not. I wholeheartedly disagree. I don't love Kale's character. I wasn't excited to read a book mostly from his perspective before I started reading it. This is why I suggest the tandem read to balance this action-packed adventure with, I'm doing a lot of switching back and forth here, with Tower of Dawn. Tower of Dawn is a healing journey for the characters featured in that book, and therefore it needs to be introspective, it needs to be a little slower. At times it's very bittersweet, and when you read these two books together, it's very much like watching a TV show like Game of Thrones. Sidebar, I will say if you decide not to do the tandem read, that's totally fair. There are lots of good arguments out there for not doing it. SJM herself doesn't pressure readers into doing the tandem read, so you absolutely do not have to. I, on the other hand, am absolutely going to encourage you wholeheartedly, because I've never had a reading experience like this, and it is a reading experience that is going to stick with me for a very long time. TOG as a series in itself is among my top life reads. It's up there with Harry Potter, ACOTAR, Percy Jackson series, and it's not just that they're viral, it's that they had some kind of impact on us. I'm glad that I took the effort and the time to do the tandem read, which does bring me to some inconveniences, cons, if you will, to doing the tandem read. So one, it takes a heckin' long time to get through this. It's over 1,200 pages together. That's a thick book. I started reading this in early June and I just finished it. It's September. It's been months, guys. I will say I have been busy. I've finished some audiobooks in the meantime, but we're all busy. We all have a life. Just be patient with yourself. It's not a race to get through it. Just enjoy the journey. I also did become obsessed with my first watch through of Sex and the City. This is the first time I'm ever watching it as an adult. I feel like you need to watch it at least once in your life. It's kind of cringy in the earlier seasons, but anyway, we're going to get back to the tandem read and not Sex and the City. The second big con is that it often feels like a homework assignment. When I sit down to read, I do it for enjoyment, I do it for fun, I do it for escapism. That's why I love fantasy. For the most part, reading is a brain off activity for me. And the tandem read kind of switched it to a brain on activity where I do have to pay attention to where I stop. I do have to pay attention to how many pages. It almost feels like read X amount of pages before class, except there's no class, there's no fun discussion to be had. Prior English major, that is why I said fun. Third is the actual switching between the two books. So there were times in this one where I just wanted to keep going, and I actually had to practice self-discipline and commit to the tandem read and switch and close my book and not continue. I will say though, there is a big chunk of this book where you're just in this book for a good, 10, 15 chapters or something like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but that was really nice to not have to switch back and forth. Sometimes I would get to a tab and close my book and I would just lose all momentum to keep reading. I would just pick up my phone and start scrolling, even though I wanted to keep reading, because I had to do this task switching almost. And last, just keeping track of those tabs. So I didn't buy the I don't like the little plasticky tabs, because I already had I have a ton of sticky notes left over, so I just used orange sticky notes and purple sticky notes to go with my books, to color code them to my books. And maybe those weren't sticky enough at times and they fell out, but I think it's more because I am not someone that just has one designated reading spot. I don't just read physical books.
at home. I don't keep them on my bedside table, and I don't just read on my couch. I take my books with me, I put them in my book bag, and they're on the go. Also, I have a little puppy who likes to chew on paper. She hasn't destroyed any of my books, but she did like to chew on the little paper tabs that stuck out of my books. And I did lose a few tabs to her. Earlier in this video, I said that I wasn't going to use the PDF tracker or make myself a list or anything. I thought the tabs would be good enough. I take that back. I would suggest following some kind of spreadsheet or list in addition to your tabs. All right, so this has been my spoiler-free download of the Tandem read. I cannot promise there won't be spoilers down below in the comments, especially because I'd love to chat more with you guys about this series. All my friends are behind me on TOG, so I haven't been able to like gush or talk to them about it. It's slowly killing me. It's fine. For those of you still deciding whether or not you're going to do the Tandem read, decide. Choose a side, commit, let us know in the comments. And have I convinced you one way or the other to do it or not to do it? Let me know down below, and until next time, cheers!